Itachi Shinden, Book of Bright Light Chapter 1 Part 3. Who? His classmates sat in a row, dumbstruck. Even the teacher, a little ways off taking notes, forgot to call on the next student in his disbelief. The class was basically a test to see how many of the 20 human figures set up all over the schoolyard a student could hit with kunai in a short period of time. Each student took a turn individually. His classmates before him had all run around the schoolyard at top speed, managing to complete the task in just over 5 minutes, panting all the while. Before the class started, they had shown the location of the human figures. All of them were in annoying places like the top of the tallest tree, or behind a half-open window on the 3rd floor. So everyone raced around frantically, and managed to do it in an average of 5 minutes. Itachi had done it in 30 seconds. And all his kunai hit the figures precisely in the head or the chest, in almost exactly the same place each time. The slight differences were only due to the differences in how much of the figure was actually exposed. His kunai had all hit with almost flawless accuracy. We know where the figures are, and all of them can be reached from the schoolyard. The students before Itachi finished the test, limited by these factors. His study of them, and the plan he crafted in response, were impeccable. From the starting point in the center of the schoolyard, Itachi drew a line in his mind to split the range into 4, and then further roughly divided up the areas of concentration of the targets, before he categorized these as ones he could reach from the starting point, and ones he would need to move to hit. There were 12 that required him to move. He then sorted the targets that required movement, and calculated a trajectory that would allow him to go round with the most efficiency. As the teacher gave the start signal, Itachi launched the 8 kunai he held in both hands at 8 human figures simultaneously. That didn't even take 2 seconds. From there, he started running, tracing out the route he had pictured in his head, and made a swift tour of the yard. 30 seconds. Itachi felt like it almost took too long. Shisui could have done it faster. Well done. All right, next up, the teacher said, sweat rolling down his forehead. Without responding, Itachi returned to his place among the excited students. His performance had been so incredible that no one could say a word directly to him. They circled him from a distance and whispered to each other. Unaware of this reaction, Itachi reflected on the results of the trial he had just completed. Before his eyes, the next student was racing frantically around the yard. I could shove another 5 seconds off. He found a place where he could correct the trajectory of his run, and felt ashamed of his immaturity. Ucha Itachi, the teacher called, and Itachi stood up and proceeded to the front of the classroom. Here you are. You did very well. A large circle was drawn around the score 100 at the top of the page he was handed. You're the only one to get a perfect score on the test. Hearing this, his classmates gasped in surprise. Itachi bowed slightly to the teacher, and then returned directly to his seat. 3 months since he started school. And he still had not had anything resembling a conversation with any of his classmates. They naturally hesitated in the face of the outstanding grades he got in each and every one of their classes. All of them had ever so timidly spoken to him once, but Itachi's responses were always so concise and definite that none of them wanted to try to speak to him again. He was not going to school to make friends, though, so he was fine with that. The larger dissatisfaction for Itachi was how he felt like it was never enough, no matter how excellent his grades were. The limit for grades was 100%, it was impossible to get anything more than that. But he felt like this was unproductive. Can I really learn the true nature of the ninja in a place like this? School grades and actual ability were not the same thing. That's what he felt, which was why he was always dissatisfied. Itachi was truly concerned about the fact that being number 1 at school was not directly connected to his own dream of being a great ninja. Make sure you show this test to your parents, his teacher instructed, and Itachi carefully folded in half the page with the 100 on it. Turn, a voice said suddenly, and he looked back slowly. In the hallway after school, all around him were boys waiting for friends to go play with, and girls chatting and squealing with laughter. Filled with a sense of liberation at their release from the formalities of lessons, they were excessively energetic. "You're Uchiha Itachi, right?" the girl said, looking at him with upturned eyes. Her brown hair reached down to her shoulders, and she had both arms crossed in front of her chest. The eyes below thin eyebrows were almond-shaped and bright, while at the same time having a mysterious charm that made him feel bittersweet somehow. I am also a member of the Uchiha clan." "You are," he returned, curtly. It wasn't just with this girl. Itachi always had this attitude at school. Most people would crumble at this point in the conversation, and then they would never try to step into his space again. "My name's Uchiha Izumi. I'm in the class next door." "So?" Shisui had the day off today for the first time in a while, so once school was over, they were supposed to train together. He didn't have the time to dawdle here like this now. "We take the same way home, huh?" "There's only one Uchiha compound." "Of course we take the same way." The girl Izumi said, hanging her head. "And maybe we could." "Sorry, I'm in a hurry." Itachi turned his back to her and started racing down the hallway. "So how's school?" Shisui asked, wiping away the sweat on his forehead with a towel. Itachi jerked his shoulders up and down and exhaled heavily. They were talking at the park in the center of the compound after running for about 4 hours. And not just running at top speed. They ran for 4 hours, maintaining their top speed the entire time. Anyone not diligent with their ninja training wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes. Shisui looked slightly cooler than Itachi felt, and the younger boy glared slightly as he opened his mouth. "It's way better for me to train with you. But you've gotten pretty good at talking since you started at the academy." "I haven't changed." "I guess you have always been pretty mouthy." Shisui laughed and put a hand on Itachi's head. "I guess there's no one in your class who can take you on." Itachi said nothing. "Is there?" Shisui asked, surprised. Itachi shook his head from side to side, his friend's hand still pressing down on it. "I don't know what kind of grades everyone else gets. But as far as I can tell from watching them in the schoolyard, there's no one amazing or anything." "So you're only looking at yourself?" Itachi felt like that might be exactly it. He couldn't see his classmates. What should he do? How could he become the best ninja? That's all he had thought about since he was a little kid. He had no energy to spare on anyone else. "There's no one more amazing than you at that school. I'll tell you that right now." Shisui's hand tousled Itachi's hair. "Quit it." He pushed the hand away. "As long as we have you, the future of the Uchihas is secure," Shisui said, laughing, but his smile was a little sad somehow. Listening to Sasuke breathing softly in his sleep beside him, Itachi laid down on his futon. It had been just over a year since they moved to the new compound, and he had gotten very used to the look of the ceiling above his bed. Beyond the bedroom where the 2 children slept was the family's dinner table, where Fugaku and Mikoto were sitting. "Itachi's grades are amazing, HM?" He heard his mother's voice from the other side of the closed sliding doors. She apparently thought the children were already asleep. Without trying to listen, Itachi stared absently up at the ceiling. "He is my son, after all." "I suppose so." His father was praising him. And his mother was happy about it. There was nothing to feel bad about. "How is he at school?" his father asked. "What do you mean?" "Look at these excellent grades." "I'm not talking about that," his father said, cutting his mother off. "Does he have any friends?" "He doesn't really talk about his friends. That boy doesn't know how to take it easy. That's not such a bad thing. But he goes too far. It's like he's rushing, like he's hurrying to become a full-fledged ninja." Dad sees right through me. The slightest heat colored Itachi's face. The way he's so earnest about ninjahood, sometimes I feel like I should take lessons from him, even though I'm his father. But a thread stretched too taut is fragile. I'm worried he needs to let loose somehow. He's a gentle boy. You just have to watch Itachi cuddling Sasuke to know that. He'll be fine. And lately, he really looks up to Shisui like a big brother. They train together, they're quite close. Shisui of the body flicker, Itachi was also aware that Shisui had been drawing attention as a ninja lately, garnering the nickname Body Flicker. It's all well and good to have an older friend too, but it'd be nice if he could talk with friends his own age and learn at least a little of what fun feels like. I'm sure he will. A friend this some age. The face of the girl who spoke to him suddenly after school floated up in the back of his mind. Uchiha Izumi. Murmuring the girl's name, Itachi quietly closed his eyes. 6 months after starting at the academy, Itachi's fame spread throughout the school. He excelled to such an extent that some teachers and students said his level of talent had never before been seen at the school. Given the fact that the first-year classes had nothing to teach Itachi, his teachers gave him special homework and tests. But Itachi easily mastered it all, and his teachers threw up their hands in defeat. He was more than advanced enough for the genin level, and so, just over 4 months after he started school, his teachers unanimously agreed on his graduation after his first year. The village of Konoha, exhausted from the Great War and the attack by the Ninetales, urgently needed ninja. Because of this, a select number of students judged by their teachers to be particularly gifted could take the graduation exam without waiting for their full term to be up. If they passed the exam, they would then attend the graduation ceremony with the older students and be assigned duties as a genin. Naturally, Itachi passed the graduation exam. It was on clone techniques, something he had mastered with the instruction he got from Shisui before starting at the academy. "You'll be a ninja and out there in no time," Shisui had said, knowing Itachi's fervent desire to become a ninja as soon as possible, and then joined him in clone training. 6 months of school left. His graduation had already been settled. "Hey! You!" Itachi heard someone call out and stopped walking. "You him? Uchiha Itachi?" 3 older students, probably from the school's senior class, stood in the hallway behind him. Itachi had spent his whole life training as a ninja. He didn't have an ounce of energy to pour into anything else. He just barely remembered the names and faces of the students in his own class. He didn't know anything about students in other classes or grades. So he was assuming, based on their height, that these students were in the most senior grade. The average age of graduation from the academy was 12. The physique of 7-year-old Itachi was completely different. He was so short, he had to look up at the student standing before him. "You know who you are?" "No." At Itachi's blunt response, the student standing in the middle, the one who had done all the talking, furrowed his brow. "Cheeky brat, just like everyone says, huh?" He was a scary older boy with a small nose and narrow eyes. "I'm Izumo Tenma. Fleetfoot Tenma, they call me. Ain't nobody at school who doesn't know me." "I don't know you made it as far as Itachi's throat, but he swallowed the words and looked up at this Tenma. "You want to go?" said the student with droopy eyes standing on Tenma's right. He was nervous, maybe concerned about what Tenma would think. "Slow it down, Katsura," Tenma instructed, and Katsura threw him an ingratiating smile. "You know why we stopped you?" the boy on Tenma's left asked, his right eyebrow shooting up. He was the tallest of the 3. "No idea." "What's with this kid?" "Hold up, Aguri," Tenma held the tallest boy back. "We're gonna make sure we teach this kid about school manners. Just don't rush it." Tenma slowly took a step forward to stand before Itachi. "You know hierarchy's important in the ninja world, right? With the 4-person cell as the basis for ninja duties, the orders of Superior Jonin and Chunin Ninja are absolute. Thus, decorum and seniority are the foundation for ninja. Just like an honor student to have any answer." "But..." A malicious look came over Tenma's face. "I can't stand that attitude of yours." Fi came close enough that Itachi could almost feel his breath, and glared at the younger boy. "You sure are an eyesore for an Uchiha." "You're really going there?" Hagari muttered, as if amazed at Tenma. But his voice clearly contained a sneer. Lunch break. The other students were afraid of the violent threesome, and no one came near them. All the teachers had gone back to the teacher's room. Boosted by a sense of superiority, knowing no one was going to get in his way, Tenma's mouth stretched out in a mean grin. The cheeky brat before him was a younger student, after all. And Tenma had almost certainly decided before this encounter began that Itachi would cry and apologize if they just threatened him a bit. No doubt he had made countless classmates and younger students obey him like this. He wasn't the least bit ashamed of threatening a student 5 years his junior. The dim arrogance of their natures bled out onto the faces of all 3 students. It wouldn't take Itachi even 3 minutes to beat down these fools. They called him cheeky or whatever, but really, they just wanted to make him yield. They wanted to make the supposed school prodigy cry and beg for mercy and stroke their own vanity. So why didn't they come at him the moment they called out to stop him? This was no ordinary school, this was a training ground for ninja. The thought of killing was no sooner had than the act was carried out. Wasn't that the way of the ninja? These older students didn't understand that the institution of school was protecting them. It was like they were open on all sides. Itachi had kunai hidden on his back. And quite fortunately, he had 3 of them there. There wasn't even any need for him to take a step. He could simply reach around to grab the kunai at his waist and send them flying through the air. Holes would be dug out of the foreheads of Tenma and the other 2, and all 3 would fall. But he wouldn't kill them. For Itachi, who believed a ninja's decision to kill was the movement to kill, the fact that he didn't move meant he wouldn't kill them. The reason was simple: Itachi didn't like fighting. That was why he'd never once been in a fight. In a fight, you couldn't actually kill the other person. You needed to show restraint. And he was uncertain as to whether he could actually show the crucial restraint. He worried that he might actually end up killing his opponent. So, he wouldn't kill them. Better to avoid futile fighting. But he also had no intention of letting them hit him. It was you guys who set the 9 tails on the village, right? His heart beat faster at Tenma's words. All the grown-ups say so. You know that the Uchiha clan made the 9 tails attack the village. You're a sneaky, cunning clan, so we'll probably never catch who did it, right? But it was definitely an Uchiha. The fact that the Hokage and them don't trust you is proof. I mean, they made you all go live together, on the edge of the village. I don't know anything about that. You think you can't just say, "I don't know," and be done with it? The furrow between Tenma's brows grew deeper. My uncle died when the 9 tails attacked us. His dad did, too. Tenma pointed to Katsura, standing behind him. And how things go for your family again? Tenma then asked Hagari, as he glared at Itachi. Right in front of me, my mom, she was trying to protect my little sister from debris that came flying, and... Hagari faltered. Itachi remembered when he had protected Sasuke and his mother. He had leapt innocently at the enormous rock sailing down toward them and mustered everything he had to smash it. Did you stand by quietly and watch your mother die? Couldn't you do what I did? He wanted to ask Hagari. You have to get stronger so that you can protect things, so that you can push away sadness. The Uchiha clan are our enemy. I mean, you're our enemy. You killed our relatives. How could we not hate you? Tenma demanded. First, false charges, then, a broad interpretation. It was in precisely these kinds of human feelings that the origin of war lay. A person wants to bury, somehow, the sense of loss after losing someone they love. This feeling, a feeling they don't know how to vent, snatches away their power of judgment and runs wild. And then they hurt someone. Each and every word out of the older boy's mouth made Itachi feel more and more weighted down. Apologize. Tenma leaned back. Then he pointed into the now empty space between himself and Itachi and shouted, "Get down on your hands and knees and apologize." Say I'm sorry on behalf of the entire Uchiha clan. I will not, Itachi said dispassionately, stifling all emotion. The looks on the faces of the older students changed at once. Flushed with fierce emotion up to that point, they now suddenly paled. This superficial impulse to threaten the cheeky first-year boy, and maybe vent some of the helplessness they felt at the loss of their families in the Ninetales incident, changed in that moment to resentment toward Itachi himself. Why you? All three reached their hands around to behind themselves. They grabbed hold of kunai hilts. End of part 3. Thank you for listening. Remember to like and subscribe for lots more.